And I want to start with something that is, I know will get you fired up because you've been talking about this guy for a while.
Okay.
And Ryan Day talked with the media afterwards, and he talked about specifically how his team wants to be more versatile. Like he wants to keep having versatility within his team. And we
hmm
saw how that paid dividends last year with the offensive line. And
hmm
then he specifically mentioned, players in the past that have helped them out, getting steps in different positions. He mentioned Xavier Johnson. And then
Right.
he immediately went into Brandon Inniss and
Oh,
how he might
oh.
take some snaps at running back. And I found
Don't,
that very
don't
interesting. And
say.
I knew that would get you excited. So what do you think about, Brandon Inniss as a wide receiver potentially getting some snaps there in the backfield?
One second, please.
Yeah, I know. It's a
First
lot of
off, everyone, I want to give my co-host a round of applause here for him remembering something that I have said before and giving me the props. I appreciate that.
eh,
And the fun thing is that I've said that before you even knew who I was and before I knew who you were, I said this before the season started. So we're talking springtime last year. I told my co-host Bryce on the Scar and Blue show, I said, Brandon Ennis, coming out of high school, had to play quarterback because, because of the situation there, moved from wide receiver, so didn't really play his senior year. But I said, I've seen him run. I said, he's not a burner. He knows how to get open. He can, saw that in the playoffs. But I said, he has the body to play running back if ever necessary. And last year I said, I didn't really. I said, I was like, after Trey and Judkins, I said, I don't really know about the depth after that. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him there last year. We didn't really, but we saw him come on a lot of like jet sweep motions. And then Ryan Day just says this today. And man,
yeah,
I do think he can do it. I believe Brandon Ennis to be one of those underrated players in college football, just a small thing in the Big Ten. Before Jeremiah, everyone knew about Jeremiah Smith, but at that point, a lot of people thought in South Florida that he was probably, if not the one of the best football players to come out of South Florida.
yeah.
I think next year or this upcoming season, Ryan Day and Ryan, I'm sure you remember Ryan Day mentioned Brandon Ennis a lot last spring.
Yeah.
I think he's going to try and get him the ball.
I think so too. And you mentioned him, having the body, 6'2", 203. And he's
He's
probably going to
stout.
put
Like, he's
on.
not small. It's not
He's
skinny.
stout, yeah. And he might even put on a few more pounds here before the fall starts, especially if they do want him to take a few snaps at running back. Now, I don't expect him to take, you know, I don't really expect him to take 20 snaps at running back this year,
Yeah.
but Ohio State doesn't have the depth at running back that they did last year. Like they had two studs in Henderson and Judkins, who they knew they could go to on any given down, and both of them could excel. And now they're down to only one back who really has experience. That's transfer CJ Donaldson. So, if they want to get funky with the offense and try to build a little bit more depth with that versatility,
Mm-hmm.
just throw Ennis back there every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like it's not gonna be an every down thing. I mean, it's still gonna be Donaldson and Peoples and maybe some Sam William Dixon thrown in if Turbo and Bo Jackson aren't ready to go. So they've got options, they're just not proven options. And quite honestly, like you said, I just want them to try to get Ennis the ball in any way that they can. He's had to wait his turn, so he hasn't really gotten a lot of chance to really impact the game
Mm-hmm.
in any meaningful way, in any big way, I should say, when it comes to like the big games that they were playing. And now with Igbuka gone, he slides up into the depth chart, and I'm really excited to see what he can do with more snaps available to him.
Where looks good at number one too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
looks good in
had
his number.
slightly forgotten that he had changed his number, and I saw the
Mm-hmm.
pictures, and I was like, a second. Oh yeah, that's right. He changed his number to 1. So that was just one takeaway that we had from the practice, or that I had specifically from the practice. I knew that would get you excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, something else that he mentioned when he was
Mm-hmm.
also talking about the versatility that I found interesting. He was talking about how it's specific to the offensive line, how he wanted to get some other guys, some guys reps at other positions. Because we saw last year what happened when Donovan Jackson was able to move from guard to tackle. It quite frankly saved the season.
Yes, it
So
did.
he mentioned getting Sirveld out to tackle and
I have this in my notes too.
and getting Luke Montgomery some reps at center.
Yeah.
So I know we had talked, maybe it was last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, about that report that they were looking at getting Sirveld starting left tackle reps, which both of us were like, let's not do that. Let's keep that far away. But it does sound like they want to get him some reps just in case they have some sort of injury situation like they had last year. I mean, you when you go through something like that and you're not really prepared for it, it makes you realize that you need contingency plans. So what are your thoughts on them getting some, specific to Sirveld and Montgomery getting reps at, those other spots?
Well, I like it. I'm happy with it. I believe last year, and every season you're gonna learn something different about about your program, or something different about you as a coach. And I think that depth is always going to be the thing in football. But I think in this moment from last season, Ryan Day realized, oh crap, I need my offensive linemen to know different positions, or at least what suits them better if they need to play a secondary position. And he talked about that. He said every single of his offensive linemen, he wants to have secondary positions now.
Yep.
Talked about Anianwa, probably starting he said he probably start left tackle.
Yep.
But Austin Sirveld getting out there also, which guard. Austin's a big guy. I'm not always keen on my offensive. He's tall. I don't like my guards being tall. I don't think he's good in there. I think he plays better.
He
tackle.
Didn't show like he was great.
No.
When they put him out there at guard,
it was bad. I said to you, I never want to see him in an Ohio State uniform again.
Yeah, and I'm not quite going to go that far.
I know.
He's 6'5", 320, so
I was hurt. I was hurt.
Yeah, sure.
But if maybe he looks better at tackle now. Luke Montgomery, the fact that his secondary position could be center tells me that they trust him a lot. I have a big crush on Luke Montgomery as a player. So I mean, that's just really cool to hear. But no, and by the way, I mean, I don't want to go off away from the offensive line portion of it, but
well, real quick before you do, I just found it funny. He was just naming the offensive line. He's like, yeah, we want to get Sirveld, some reps at tackle. Yeah, we want to get Luke some reps at center. Yeah, Tegra, it'd be nice if he could play something else also. Like, he didn't even give a specific position.
I didn't even hear he said that. He said that.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't in as many words. He didn't come right out and said it, but he's like, yeah, we'd like to see some versatility from Tegra as well. And in my mind, I was like, oh, you don't know, you don't think he can play anywhere.
No, I don't think I think that's one of those things you don't mean to say, but in your heart, it's in your heart. It kind of just some things just spill out sometimes.
Yeah,
but sometimes things just spill out.
Yeah.
But
so what were we gonna bring up?
No, I was gonna bring up about how just. I thought it was really cool how we've talked about Brandon Inniss. You brought up Brandon Inniss and him playing running back and right. I'm like, if I'm wrong, let me know. But that was like a whole spiel he was talking about just everyone being versatile on his offense.
Yep.
Talking about the tight ends getting out the wide receiver.
Yep.
Ryan, I mean, clearly Chip Kelly he's in love with Chip Kelly's dual running back formation because he talked a lot about that and talked about the running backs being able to spill out. So yeah,
when you mentioned the tight ends, your favorite guy, Max Clark, came up. He's like, yeah, we want to get him some reps at wide receiver too. And I'm like, well, okay. Well, good luck stopping that then, I guess, defenses.
I think about the potential of this team. And I just and you know what, man, we gotta bring up that picture of Julian Sand. And God's light shining down.
That was a very, very interesting picture.
Well, what did you? Well, let's move to the quarterbacks. What from what you said? What do you think so far? Off the first day, just one day.
Yeah, I mean, first day we didn't really learn a whole lot. They asked Day specifically about the quarterbacks and how they're going to handle them.
Yeah,
and I found it interesting, and I don't remember who specifically asked the question, but they asked him. So when you're evaluating the quarterbacks, what is the mentality that you would want them to have? Like, do you want them to have the mentality of just, you know what, just go win the job? Or would you
Mhm.
rather have them think about just trying to get better every day? And, Day had a pretty interesting answer. He said, we actually, in as many words, I'm paraphrasing here, we don't actually want them to just go out there and try to win the job, because that's when mistakes happen. You want
Right.
to, and then he goes through the process of them saying, okay, so when you come in, and especially a quarterback, you got to have the preparation. If you don't have the preparation, you can't play quarterback at Ohio State. So he was talking about how the quarterback wants to be the first in the building, last to leave, all that good stuff.
Mhm.
And then you learn how to become the quarterback at Ohio State. So that includes, footwork, technique, stuff like that, to really get yourself honed in. And then he talked about, the why, and figuring out when you're a quarterback and you're that prepared to, okay, so why are we calling this play? Why are we doing this formation? Why are we doing this and that? And all of that it just further solidifies to me that right now Julian is the leader in the clubhouse, because he's gone through a lot of that process already.
Mhm.
And there was also a question that was asked about, he was also asked, if a quarterback has shown that if they're good enough to win the job in the spring, will you let them know? Like, does there even need to be a competition in the fall? And Day basically said, I mean, yeah, like if they're good enough, we'll let them know. And he mentioned the fact that when Dwayne Haskins, Joe Burrow were fighting for, they basically let Joe know, hey, like, things, I mean, could change in the fall, but right now Dwayne's got the upper hand, and it's pretty significant. So
Right.
he let him know before Joe transferred to LSU. So, I do think that if there was a clear leader, I don't think Day would have any sort of issue like naming it internally. He's not going to tell us, but he would
Right.
at least let the quarterbacks know. And then if one of them leaves, then we've got a pretty good idea of who's going to be the starter. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, just from what we've heard or seen or heard so far, what Lincoln and him splitting the first reps. That's what I expect. Um, we're only going to see them really throw the ball right now from the reps. The few reps we can see, the minor reps we can see. Without a doubt, we all know that Julian Sanders is going to look better throwing the ball than Lincoln Keenholz is. Like I read on 11 Warriors earlier, they put on there, the ball looks a little bit faster coming out of Julian's hands. I think we all saw it coming, but I'm happy with that. It was cool seeing a photo of Tavian out there.
Yeah.
He looks lean. Like he looks like he can
Although
pack more.
someone in my I got a Twitter group chat, and someone was like, "Just did someone tell Tavy not to skip leg day?" That one specific picture, his legs were, I mean, they weren't. He doesn't have tree trunks for legs right now, but I'm sure that'll come once he gets into a D1,
Mhm.
program as far as weightlifting and everything like that.
No,
But he still looked good in the uniform, and
no, he
I'm
can
kind
fill out to 240. He can
yeah.
fill out to 240.
Yeah, and I mean, how much of a fan I am of him, of his, but
Mm-hmm.
just overall takeaways from the quarterback situation right now. My guess is we're not going to find anything out until the fall. We might glean some insight as far as what's going to happen if we see like Lincoln transfer out after the spring. To me, he's the only transfer candidate in the quarterback pool.
Mm-hmm.
But and here's the photo you were talking about.
That's a great photo.
Yeah, the sun just hitting him perfectly right there, and also Ennis is standing right there talking to him, kind of hitting
Mhm.
him too. So maybe those two are the chosen ones for the season.
Look at Bryson, shining on his head too. Look, there's a few guys in there. You can't
Yeah,
even see the main guy. That's what's beautiful about it.
I know. So yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, I don't think we're gonna learn a whole lot from the quarterback situation right now, but maybe we'll learn a little bit more during the spring game. Which I wanted to ask you your take on that. Day mentioned that he said they're going to try to do as much as possible in the shoe for the spring showcase, but that was going to be contingent on health and who he thought needed to get reps and whatnot. But he said he still wanted to like put something out there for the fans. So what do you think that is all going to mean? Like, do you expect to see them flying around at the shoot, or do you think it's going to be more like a 7-on-7 kind of deal?
I think it'll be a 7-on-7 type of ordeal, but I also believe that to get some, you got to get some physical reps in. At the end of the day, this sport you got to hit. You got to hit. I've always told people that there's a special type of crazy that has to be in someone to want to play football because you have to like to hit people. So you got to want to do it. You got to like the physicality. So I think it'll be kind of like structured in a way where it's not too heavy. Guys can get hurt. Maybe go around like 50 to 70, 60%. Not too heavy. But I'm okay with it. Again, this is everyone last year, outside of the Columbus one, say, "Oh, Ohio State's soft for not hitting in their spring game." Hey, idiots! It's a long season. It's a long season. Clearly, we were healthier than a lot of people. At least not on the O line, but I mean, it's a war of attrition, and you got to get through the season healthy. You got to. So I'm okay with it. I'm happy he's doing it this way. I just want to go this real quick because Gary, you asked this talent Trump leadership. Is there a certain? Were you talking about the quarterbacks or a different position?
My guess is the quarterbacks, and it really just depends on what else you have around you. Yeah. I mean, if you're a quarterback at Ohio State, like you're expected to be a leader anyway. So all of those guys are probably being leaders. Yeah, he mentioned he just put in the chat QB specifically. So I mean, all of those guys are going to be guys that Day has confidence can lead the team. I mean, in my opinion, they don't recruit guys who they don't perceive as leaders. I mean, even the quarterbacks who don't end up being all that great, aka Kyle McCord. They thought he was a leader. I mean, he was a team captain and all that. So
he was a quarterback.
He was a quarterback. He played the quarterback position for Ohio State for 1 year. So yeah, I like I said, I would just go with the guy who you think gives you the best chance to win. Whether that's play the most talented guy because I think they're all good leaders.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. But me personally, I'm always going to take the talent over leadership. Example for me would be when Terrell Pryor came as a freshman, coming off of a national championship appearance. Beckman was in there. He did not look good against USC, and by the second quarter, Jim Tressel wasted no time. So it all depends. Right now, I would say a little bit of leadership. Clearly, the guys that just left the program and guys that are still there they really like Julian. They really do. So
we talked about how they all had good things to say about him.
Is everyone in the quarterback room has talent to some extent, but they all have talent. Like each one of them could go start. Like even Lincoln could go somewhere like a.
You might start at Mac school. You can go start for Eddie George.
You can start somewhere else. And so leadership right now, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.